Okay.
All right, let's get started. So yeah, thank you for joining our most recent short observation and data analysis webinar for the NASA Globe ENSO Student Research Campaign. SOTA webinars are extremely cool because they bring together people who have taken data over, whether it be, the presentation today since like 1999, all the way up to people doing it just for the month before the actual webinar. So we're going to have lots of cool stuff today. We have lots of people who are joining us from around the world right now. And today is going to be transitioning from data to action, the Genesis project. And I'm not going to go too much into this, but our speakers today, we have Bob Connick. He is a retired teacher from New York who has been working with Globe data, Globe protocols for a long time now, and a former student of his, Emily Pope, who is now a student at...
Write down your phone number on the shelf. I'm running out of gas. Yes.
Yeah, I have to mute more people. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, Emily Pope, she is a current student at Nova Southeastern University, and they've been working together for a long time, as student and teacher, to really get the information about the measurements that were taken. As the title shows you, transitioning from data to action, that's one of the things that we really try to focus on with this ENSO campaign is how to make sense of the data that you're taking from the protocols and how you use that data to help inform everybody about your environment. I always like to say, we like to, with collaboration, I like to say, I'm taking data in Maryland. Why should the data that I'm taking in Maryland matter to somebody in another country? Why should that data make sense? I'm taking measurements of the same
475 325 80.
All right, I had to mute Andrew. So, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation, and I will pass it over to Bob and Emily. And then afterwards, we'll do some Q&A. You can talk to them about their presentation and how you might want to collaborate with them. I know Bob is working with a couple of the folks from the Varazin schools and the medical school in Croatia. So working with that type of thing. I know Jeff Bauman, who's online right now. He has been working with some folks in Croatia as well as Femi in Nigeria and folks from around the U.S. So we got good people on here for good potential collaboration. So I'm excited to see what comes of this. So this is an example today of some really good Globe data that goes into making things make sense of that data. So I'll pass it on to whoever's going to start. Bob?
Listen, thanks a lot for joining us. Normally I'm New York, but because I'm retired now, I get to hang out in Florida. So hopefully you'll gain some information by what we tried to do up in Mahopac. I'd like to thank the Mahopac teachers and student that is joining us tonight. I know there's a bunch of other ones from Connecticut, Indiana, Ohio, Texas, and all. Genesis, basically what that started out is, as a chemistry teacher, I went to collect data. We were fortunate enough to have a stream in front of our high school. And it turned out it wasn't actually a stream. It was more of a drainage ditch and a detention basin. And every time we took data, the numbers came out real bad. So after about 9 or 10 years of doing it, I decided that there's got to be more than just realize that the water's bad. So we tried to do some stuff with that. So before we get started, I know Globe has certain investigative questions. So the ones we're going to hope to work on: water quality. What is the quality of the water in our environment? Is my water safe to drink? Water's impact. What impact does water both above and below the ground have on our environment? Is our area prone to erosion? And water and life. How does water in our environment impact living organisms? How has water availability been affected by human habitation in my environment? One of the things that I found out about people in general is that we all have strengths and weaknesses. My weakness is organization. My strength is passion. So I happened to put 50 slides on this, and I know to try and pull it off in a half an hour is not going to be easy. So I may talk a little bit quickly, but I know Jeff I'm sorry, Brian will be putting the PowerPoint on. So if you missed anything, you can always go back and take a look. And I believe also my email will probably be available. So if you have any questions. What you see here in the background is Mayapack High School, and what you see in the foreground is what the stream looked like before we started the Genesis project. Mowed grass basically right down to the stream. The grass clippings would go into the water. There was no shading, so dissolved oxygen was low, temperature of the water was high. Wasn't a lot of living organisms. Habitat was very limited. What we did, and again, we were looking at the scientific method, so just want to make sure I don't go too fast. I'll go back one, which is not going to allow me to do. Basically, when I teach science, I try to have the kids use the scientific method. I show them how to use it even when they want to buy a car. So basically, the first thing, you make observations. We saw the grass clippings and the sunlight hitting the water. Second thing is you come up with some kind of question, problem statement. Okay, what is the quality of the water in the ecosystem in front of the school? Besides the stream, we also had a pond that was there, but it was filling up with a lot of sediments and all. Basically, if you see up on the top here, I guess I have a pointer. So if you see here, we've got the high school, and then basically what we can do is just walk out the front of the high school, and we've got our pond right here. We've got the stream, okay, and that works out very well as far as being able to use the time effectively and efficiently. Third step, scientific method, you gather information, you do some research. Found out that, there's storm drains. The storm drains lead into the pond and the stream. So basically you get things like silt, sediment, sand washing into the stream and creating a really poor habitat for things like macroinvertebrates and all. Next guy. Okay, so once we found out that there was a problem, the question is, how do we solve it? So we developed some kind of educated guess based on the research that we did, and then we perform experiments. What you see here is some kids putting in what we hope would be the solution to help improve water quality. Okay, one thing I found out is when I get involved in this project is there is a lot of resources, at least available in New York State. I'm not sure with other states. I imagine there probably are a bunch of things that can be used that are available. In this case, what we did is the students figured that if they created a riparian buffer, trees around the wetland and the stream, then that would help improve the water quality. So there was a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation that has a Trees for Trip program. And what we did was we got trees for free from them. And basically they got the kids to dig some holes and put the trees in. And what we'll see is eventually the results of how that looked. Again, the state provided help by sending people down. You can see that the trees here, this is one of the trees that they provided. They're all native trees and shrubs. So one of the big things I know we have a problem with now is invasive species. But we got all the kids. They were willing to come out, participate. And this is Mr. Rizzo right here. Probably running in to get more supplies. It's nice to be young. Okay, from there, a class. Not only did I have the kids, we had an after-school club, but in the class itself, I talked to the school district. I convinced them that this would be something that would be worthwhile forming a class for. So they actually let me run it as an environmental research class. And so some of the kids signed up, and turns out that high school kids, you keep them busy, they love to do things. So unfortunately, you can see it took about 14 high school kids to plant one tree. I'm trying to lower that ratio as I went along, but they're all great kids. They did a great job, and things worked out pretty well. So just to show you again, we got some really bad numbers here for this stream. And after the kids finished the project, let's go back to our pointer, I guess. Okay, here's the before, the stream, what it looked like in front of the parking lot. After they planted, this is what they're now looking at, the same part of the stream. So you can see it made a huge difference, much more diverse habitat, shading for the water, water temperature dropped, dissolved oxygen's going up, macros and stuff, much more things available for the living organisms. Next guy. Okay, pond, same thing. Okay, we can see that here's the pond. There's really nothing around. There's a lot of stuff in the pond growing that is being filled with sediment. So after the kids, they wound up putting trees and shrubs around, and this is what the result was. And you can see it's much more diverse. One thing I can say that was an interesting kind of battle was that this, if you're a high school, this I guess is more aesthetically pleasing than this. I mean, to me, this looks much better, but I guess if you're not an environmentalist, this is probably, it's clean cut, it's easy to take care of. So as far as schools are concerned, this would be the better way to go. But they did let us kind of, run wild. And so this is what it looks like today. And we went on to do more studies. Another thing that kids decided to do, the buffer with the plants, after they planted that helped with the water coming in from around the watershed. But the water in the stream itself, we were also hoping to find something that would work with that. So, Emily, were you involved with this, I think?
Yeah, I was there for the very start of this project, where we actually decided on installing the floating islands through a series of experiments that another student conducted, where she tested out what would be the best management practice, whether it be aeration systems, floating islands, and different techniques that could be used. And we ended up deciding on the floating islands, which we installed in the summer of 2012.
Okay, I know Mr. Rizzo had asked about that. We thought it was 2010, but there you go, Scott. It was 2012, the end of the summer. So we didn't get them in because they came later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. All right, so yeah, this is what a floating island looks like. It basically is made of recycled plastic. It's photodegradable, so we had to, I think, put some cover on the top end.
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay, and then we wound up getting these into the water. So after we got it, yeah, there we go. We did put burlap over the top. The kids picked out a bunch of different types of plants. I think one was local grasses, one were kind of medicinal type plants, and the third were edibles. So they tried 3 different types of plants on 3 different islands. The kids, installed the islands, and that's what we're looking at now, is trying to see what kind of effect these islands have. Again, 1, 2, 3 islands with the 3 different kinds of plants and stuff on them. What we now tried to do is we wanted to monitor the effects that these treatments were having. So we have a pre-pond site, which this is the water before it flows into the pond, and the water then goes into the pond, and then from there it flows out of the pond into our post-pond site. So if you go on to Globe and to the Mayapack site, those are the sites that we have, are the pre and post-pond, and kids have been monitoring things like dissolved oxygen, pH, alkalinity, transparency, basically most of, if not all of the Globe protocols for water quality to determine if, the effect of these treatments is good. Here again, an aerial view. Mayapack High School is here, and there's our pre-pond site. Water's flowing down this way into the pond. You can see the 3 islands there, and then from the pond it goes to our post-pond site. So the kids basically during the day, I know there's a class 8th period that Ms. Johnson is running, Ms. Johnston, and yeah, she has the kids go out and they do all the parameters on both of those sites. And, we'll just have to wait and take a look at them to see what kind of patterns develop from testing that. We go inside. Again, these are the test kits. One, Eileen is another girl. She's up in Binghamton right now. She said she couldn't make it tonight. She's working. She wanted to be part of the program, but I know she's a very busy young lady. So yeah, you can see these are test kits. We use hot kits. They seem to be most reliable. I've heard people use the Lamont kits, and they said that they're just as good. So it works out well. The parameters that we test are all listed over here. Okay, we'll let Emily. You can take this one since you're in this slide.
So we collected data all year long, regardless of the weather conditions. We went out in the winter, in the snow, winter jackets, rain boots. We also took a trip to the Hudson River and collected samples there. So it was definitely fun as a student to see how weather doesn't really stop environmental research and to be able to participate year round.
Yeah, in case you can't tell, this is Emily right down here. And this is her trusted friend, Lauren, who also environmental, I think, in Tennessee, is it?
Yeah, I think she's majoring in environmental science.
Environmental science, yeah. So once you get the kids started on environmental stuff, they're usually pretty good at finishing it out. This is one of Mr. Rizzo's students. We were down in the Hudson River, and one of the things, it's called Snapshot Day. And so we go out into the Hudson River. One of the things they require us to do is take a sediment sample. And obviously, in order to do that, it requires the student to get slightly wet. Okay, the main thing that I had when I first started here is where to put all of the water quality data. We used to put it on hard copies, put it in binders, and then store it in the back room. And, it was just what was going to happen when I left. How do you work with these numbers and all? So, yeah, luckily we have a couple of kids. Sydney, I'm not sure if she's with Mr. Rizzo tonight joining us, but she's doing a great job up there inputting the data. And so, yeah, once we have it all in Globe, so now we can look at all the data, as far back as we've taken it. I think there's even data back from like 1999. So it's been there for a while. Again, this is old Globe. This is when I was way back starting it. They've come a long way since then. We also are working with other scientists, Dr. Karen Moore from the New York Department of Environmental Protection. She's helped out a lot, and there's so many different ways you can look at numbers. So we're trying to do the best we can to make sure that whatever we think the numbers are saying is scientifically valid. So she's given us a couple of different ways to look at this. This graph basically is just showing that as the temperature increases, the variability between pre-pond and post-pond becomes greater. And that makes sense because if it goes through the pond, it heats up usually in the summertime. We get making connections, again, still part of the scientific research. After you do water quality data, this is Dr. Katie Schneider. Tomorrow she will be with Mr. Rizzo back in the non-impacted site. And unfortunately, the non-impacted site does not look like this. I understand that Mr. Rizzo has to actually shovel a path because of all the snow that's up there. One of the reasons why Katie, I believe, is about 7 months pregnant, so she's going to be up there trucking around in the woods, and you can't have her sliding. But these are NYU students working with Mahopac High School students, and they're learning about where the water comes from that's being supplied to New York City. Again, they go back, they run the chemical tests. I'm not sure, that might be you in the back there, Em, or maybe an NYU.
Yeah, I think that is.
That is you? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. You were very involved. Other things we do, Globe I know has macroinvertebrate protocols, but sometimes we don't have the time to run them the way that we need to. So we can do things like leaf packs. I know Mr. Rizzo has put a couple of leaf packs into the streams. This way, we can pull them out and look them over. And I know they've done I think tests in Costa Rica, things like that. So it's just another way, another parameter to look at when we're doing water quality studies. Trout in the classroom. This is, I'm trying to think, I think it's a New York State DEC program. And basically we raise the trout from eggs. And then once they get big enough, again, tomorrow, this is where they're going to be in Mayapack, and then they release it into the Muscoot River, which our river connects to the Muscoot. And I think I have a map down the road which shows a little more how they're all connected. Okay, that's Mr. Quackenbush, physics teacher, with his daughter. You had it, right? You had Mr. Quackenbush, yeah, I think, yeah?
Yeah, yep, I was there for that trout release too.
That's okay, good deal. All right, kids, again, you know, girls tend to be squeamish sometimes, but not once you get them out, they're usually even more aggressive than the boys when it comes to handling things with big claws and other stuff. But again, the macroinvertebrates, very important when you're looking at water quality. Okay, I know, Brian, you kept pushing, like, how does, you know, what am I doing here in Mayapack? What has that got to do with the rest of the world? So one of the things I do like to show the kids is how the stream that goes from in front of Mayapack basically then feeds into the Muscoot River, which is a trout stream, which then feeds down into the Croton Reservoir, and then the Croton Reservoir feeds into the Hudson River. And so basically the water that we're dealing with up here in Mayapack affects 8 million people's drinking water, and then eventually gets into the Hudson River, which we know flows into the Atlantic. And so there's the connect as to how all these things kind of fit together. Another thing that we show the kids, this is the dam at the Croton Reservoir. This provides about 10% of the New York City drinking water. Again, when the kids see this, it's just one of those aha moments when they come and look at this. But again, they're getting the full scope of, you know, what's involved with providing water for 8 million people. This is the old aqueduct. I was just amazed when I saw this. You know, 90 million bricks, took 5 years to build, and it was all gravity fed. Basically no pumps involved at all, just from the reservoirs upstate. The water just slowly trickled down through these tunnels to New York City. And again, when the kids see something like this, the engineering that was involved was just amazing. And yes, you were there. There you are. Okay. These are the kids that were involved, I believe, with the first New York, probably with the first New York City study. You remember what you did here with these kids?
Yeah, I think that may have been one of the first years we did it. But it was an awesome opportunity because not only were we able to, in high school, be able to help out college students and feel like you could actually contribute even being so young, but we were also able to learn from them as well, and they were able to learn from us. And in addition, we took like a field trip, so we were able to see the old aqueduct system, which was crazy to see how much we've come and what a long way we've come and how much has changed.
Yeah, and yeah, I thought that's a cool idea. Like the fact that I remember telling you guys, you're high school kids, you get to teach NYU kids, you know, how to do stuff.
Yeah,
so,
it was definitely a cool experience.
So yeah, and it did. The kids got excited about doing it. Again, in New York State with the regions, you know, people keep saying, oh, you know, I don't have time to fit this stuff into the classroom. But I lucked out as a chemistry teacher. You know, obviously, I want to teach things like gas solubility and how water temperature affects gas solubility. So I could actually have the kids in the class go out to the stream, you know, do water quality testing for like dissolved oxygen, or I could use the trout tank in my classroom and the other aquarium I had, which was just had goldfish. And so I had 2 different temperatures, 2 different tanks, and they could see the difference between how much oxygen was in one versus the other based on the temperature difference. Again, there's 2 stars here. Saw them earlier. We got Mr. Rizzo. This was part of the Genesis project. One of the things that we did is as far as I heard, we're the only stream that has a handicapped accessible ramp. So if someone in a wheelchair wanted to do water quality studies, this ramp, we have 2 actually ramps that were designed, and they can come up here and they can get involved with water quality studies. So we actually did have a gentleman come up who was in a wheelchair. that was part of the program. And yeah, he loved it. He said it was a great thing. And then Ms. Johnson is, I know, joining the meeting. That's Mr. Rizzo. We got Mr. Quackenbush, he's physics. And then Michelle, I'm not sure. I did text her. She's in Ohio. We worked with her in Colorado, and she said that she was a busy mom, so she may not have made this meeting tonight. Genesis Project, where it came from. You know, I spent a lot of time reading scripture. I'm reading the book of Genesis, and basically I came upon the verse that's up here, and I just felt that it was part of our purpose to take care of our resources that we have. And then Louis Pasteur says, the more I study nature, the more I stand amazed at the work of the Creator. I pray while I'm engaged at my work in the laboratory. I mean, he did amazing stuff as a scientist. So these are the kind of people that I look to inspire me, to keep me going. And it's worked. Like I said, 40 years, and I just still can't get enough of it. Cynthia, okay, another girl is part of Genesis Project. What she's doing is we found a program. Did you use that program at all, Emily, where they took a picture of the plant and then the software helped identify what the plant was?
Yeah, a little bit. They put little plaques up so that you could walk through the whole ecosystem and be able to identify a bunch of different plants.
Okay, so yeah, the girls actually found this program, and it was, I think it was being run by either some college or botanical gardens, and it was kind of in its infancy stage, and it did have some glitches, but it did help a little bit. And then we turned the front of the school into an outdoor classroom where what you've got is the plaques that Emily was talking about, so the kids can go out, and it gave you basically some information and some fun facts about the plants. And then the ramps, I had explained to you already about what they are and how they work. Here again, got Miss M there taking down the data. And then I guess Lauren and not sure, maybe Eileen in the front.
I think that is Eileen.
Eileen, okay. So this is Dr. Karen Moore. She's the one that is a globe scientist that lives close and is more than willing to help out. But yeah, this is probably what tomorrow's study will look like, Mr. Rizzo, when you're out there doing your thing. Snapshot Day. Again, since the water that is in front of the high school flows into the Hudson River, we have the kids go down and they get a quick snapshot of the physical, chemical, and biological parameters of what the Hudson River is all about. The first snapshot day that we had, it was a leftover of a hurricane that went through. So I thought it was going to be canceled, but I didn't realize it was rain or shine. So I didn't realize just how much rain. So this is Mary Kate. She's actually CIA Homeland. She's working down in Washington right now. But yeah, she keeps in touch. She makes some great fudge that she gives me every Christmas. These are two other guys, two Bryans, that were also involved in that study. And we've been down at Snapshot Day ever since. Mayapack kids with the Globe, they went down to Northeast Mid-Atlantic Regional Student Research Symposium. They competed, and what happened was our town switched from road salt to brine solution, and they wanted to find out if it was having a positive effect, and it turns out that it was, and so they did very well in the competition. This is kids again down with the New York City kids. We talked about those, so we're all set on that. One of the things we tried to do is, since we're the water keepers and they're the water users, so it's nice when you put faces to what we're trying to accomplish here. So in Trout in the Classroom, I made a connection with one of the teachers that teach down in I think it was Brooklyn, and they brought their kids up. And I can tell you, the two schools were very diverse as far as the types of students that we dealt with. But it was great to get the kids together. They did a good job, as you can see from the quotes here. Our kids had the opportunity to travel upstate and experience nature. This was a rare and unique experience for us. And then one of the kids, this was a great experience. We can learn from a book, but this is real world, and releasing trout into the stream was exceptionally cool. So they had a good time. Varesden. We're trying to continue our connection with Varesden. Also, we talked to Texas today. Got a hold of Audra. She said her kids would be interested in trying to work with us. So it looks like we're really starting to form a nucleus of schools from different places that, hopefully will work together. And I know the big thing was collaboration. So I'm hoping, Brian, that we're starting to see that happen. So if we look at the investigative questions, what is the water quality of our water in our environment? Is it safe to drink? From water quality tests, the students have run the main problems with the water in the stream in front of the school have been sediments, conductivity, and bacteria. To try and mitigate these problems, the students have planted riparian buffers around the stream. Genesis grants have also provided money to install special storm drains to help remove the sediments. So that's some positive things we tried to do with that. What impact does water, both above and below the ground, have on the environment? Is it prone to erosion? Students noted a drop in transparency when there is a storm and have seen muddy stormwater entering the stream. Hope is to work with town officials in keeping the storm drain catch basins clean and continue planting areas that show signs of erosion. Water and life. How does water and our environment impact living organisms? How has water availability been affected by human habitation? Healthy macroinvertebrate populations of trout stream compared to less diverse, low quality macro populations collected in front of the high school. So basically the trout stream that we go to, there's a lot of mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, a lot of diversity. And the one in front of the high school is more like some black flies, sow bugs, just lower types of macroinvertebrates, like for non-healthy water. Water and life. How does water in our environment impact living organisms? How has the water availability been affected by human habitation in the environment? Taking care of water in the stream is important because it is tributary to New York City reservoir system that provides drinking water for more than 8.5 million people. And this is when Globe visited. I'm not sure if Julie was able to join the meeting tonight, but she has been a tremendous help as well. This is her right here. But Globe came to Mayapack. This is part of that riparian buffer. They were all invasive species here, and they were replaced with natural trees and bushes. And it seemed to provide a rain garden, which helps filter the water before it gets into the pond. But it was a tremendous opportunity, and everybody seemed to do well. Okay, George Washington Carver, agricultural chemist, developed 300 products from peanuts and more than 100 products from sweet potatoes. Any man that can do that just, blows me away. And he did not have a lot of money, and he did not have a lot of sophisticated equipment. So it's like I said, people like this that I look to inspire me and keep me going, and especially when things get a little tough. So basically, you are the handicap you must face. You are the one who must choose your place. You must say where you want to go, how much you will study the truth to know. God has equipped you for life, but he lets you decide what you want to be. So we're hoping that this is just the beginning of a continuation of the Genesis project. I don't know if Emily has time. I'd have to, I guess, check with Brian. How did I do time-wise? A little over, I guess. I know Emily did some work with ocean acidification. Brian, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. You're good.
Okay, so Em, give maybe a little what she did out in California, or want to take questions first?
Yeah, how about we do that real fast? We'll break in. There are a couple questions in the chat. The one question is, here it is. Wait, where did it go? Sorry. There's a lot of chat going on here, so that's why I roll back here. Oh, question is from Steve Stan. He said, how much time elapsed between the plantings and the photos of present conditions? Looking at when you were talking about showing the pond and then when all things were planted.
All right. I am so glad Steve got my email today. I wasn't sure. He said does a huge job with the Hudson River. So yeah, Steve, listen, thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully we'll be in touch. Let's see, the plantings probably occurred somewhere around 2008 or 9. And those pictures were probably taken somewhere, I think there was like a 2012, 13 or 14. So yeah, the guys from the DEC, the Trees for Crib program that came down and reviewed how the trees were doing, were amazed at how well they had taken and how well they were growing. So our big problem now though is we've got bittersweet and a lot of the invasives moving in, and it's kind of tough fighting them off because they're slowly taking over where the natives are. So we're kind of hoping that maybe the high school kids can get involved, and we can talk to some people on how best to manage those invasives to keep the diversity of the native flora that we have.
And building further on that, Vicki Gorman out of New Jersey had a question. How has wildlife changed?
Oh, Vicki, tremendously. I mean, you saw that initially around the stream, it was mowed grass, so there was absolutely no, place for macroinvertebrates, for dragonfly, damselfly. We've had hummingbirds that are in there now. There was a river otter, some snapping turtles working its way up and down the stream. There was great blue heron. Rizzo's going to have to help me out. I keep thinking great gray, but I'm pretty sure it's a great blue heron. I was walking there and taking some pictures once, and this thing just, flew out of nowhere. So yeah, it's amazing the biodiversity that has just increased in the stream in front. It's very encouraging to see that.
And I guess I just had kind of a question about the floating islands, which I thought was pretty amazing stuff. Did you have to do anything special with the school as far as like permission wise to, if the kids were out on these floating islands, or if it was just part of the initial, they're going to do this research and this is what we're going to do?
I hope no administrators are watching tonight. Yeah, we explained to them what we were doing, and they had their safety vests on, and we had lifeguards. So yeah, the bottom line is nobody wants anything to happen. So you got a great project, you don't want any accidents. So we took as many safety features. You saw the boat that was out there, and so as long as you're safe, you're cautious, and then the kids, like I said, they were great kids. They knew that what they were involved with. So I can say I was truly blessed to be working at Mayapack, because I've talked to a lot of other teachers in other school districts, and anytime they attempt to do something, the bureaucracy just kills paperwork. And so I do apologize for those kind of districts, because it kind of stifles an excited teacher's ability to go. But Mayapack was amazingly supportive for this, and that's why we got as much done as we did.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions for Rob while we're here? You can unmute yourself. We'll wait a second, and then we'll jump into some of Emily did. Anybody?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so you're raising trout in the classroom, and in Michigan, I'm raising salmon in the classroom. So I just want to ask a few questions, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
I think the hardest thing when I raise salmon in the classroom is these fish are so sensitive. They're so picky. It's hard to find cool activities for my students, I guess. And I'm always looking for something new. So what do you do when you raise trout in your classroom? What are some of the activities that you have your students do, out of curiosity?
Sure. And then I'm not sure if Mr. Rizzo can also unmute himself, because he was the one that raised them this year. But in the past, some of the things that I've done is we measured their growth. How long did it take to grow? We had different kinds of trout. We had the brown trout, which is not the rainbow. Oh, there's Rizzo. Okay. Yeah, we had brown trout and brook trout. And that actually is an interesting thing that I had kids working on, because the brown trout are actually non-native trout. The brookies are natives, and the state stocks the streams with brown trout. So that's something I had them look at too, the different kinds of trout. the tank itself, we have them keep track of like the nitrates, like when the tank cycles, start off with, basically no bacteria in the tank. And then as you allow the ammonia from the fish excretion to get in there, you can see the ammonia levels, the nitrite levels, the nitrate levels, how they're affected and all. Mr. Rizzo, I think you're, oh, there, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. My parrot was making some noise.
This is my colleague up in Mayapack, Mr. Rizzo.
Hey, everyone. We're really fortunate, like Bob said, where Mayapack really let us take the lead and run with it. Little things, just little things between everyone has a feeding rotation. We get into why we feed them different size food to simulate sinking versus floating and insects that they might eat there. We also design the lessons around them. Unfortunately, living in an environment where it's taxonomy or predator-prey relationships, or we've actually developed labs showing what would eat them and what they eat in the lives of our macros. But that goes hand in hand when we do leaf packs, because we could talk about introducing the food. We'll be seeing them in about 3 weeks. And it's neat because the kids actually make the information applicable to the curriculum.
How many eggs does the state of New York, like the New York Department of Natural Resources, do they provide you with all the eggs, or how do they do this? Because in Michigan, the DNR will provide me with approximately 175 to like 225 eggs. And then you have them until from November till May. How they do that with you?
Similar. The DEC gives us batches of 100. I got two samples, so we start off with 200 eggs, and they estimate about a 10% die off by the time you get home. And
Yep.
We were really fortunate this year. We had probably about 190 the second day, and they get us all the food and everything.
Okay, so that's similar to Michigan. We start off that way, and they give us all the food and stuff. Out of curiosity, do you have to chill your eggs? Do you have a chiller on your tank too?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay.
That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part because those things do generate a lot of noise.
Yes, they do. I took foam and I cut like a little bed, and then I put foam on it, and I rest my chiller on top of that foam to kind of dull the vibrating and the noise. It cut it down quite a bit, but my room's pretty loud. So
yeah, you learn how to teach real loud when those things are going, and it got to the point where the kids, some couldn't hear, so I'd pull the chiller plug, I'd teach, and of course I'd forget to plug it back in, so then all of a sudden at the end of the day, I'd run back realizing that the plug wasn't in, and luckily I didn't lose too many trout that way, but yeah, that's one of the ways you have to deal with that chiller noise.
I will say this year I have a salmon tank and I have a lake sturgeon tank, and they're next to each other. And I was really surprised this year because, some of the salmon die, and the kids, I teach junior high, some of them will get pretty upset, but this year for the first time, one of the students actually said, "Hey, can we take, the dead salmon and feed it to the lake sturgeon?" And I was like, "Nah, yes, we can."
Yeah.
The lake sturgeon just slurps it up like spaghetti noodles, and the kids are they think it's the greatest thing,
Great life lessons.
Yep. No, for sure. But hey, you know what? Thank you for sharing that with me. I was just curious as to, what is the comparison from, for how we do it in Michigan versus New York. So that's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and another thing with the trout, like I said, is there's a lot of interesting discussions. Native versus imported. And the fact that the state is, stocking with non-native trout, I always wondered. And when I went to say, I think in Pennsylvania, they actually had streams where they shocked them, took out the browns, and put the brookies back in. And I'm pretty sure the brookies are a little more sensitive. So as far as an environmental indicator, they'd be better to have in the water because they'll go up before the browns will. But then when I talked about that in New York, the fishermen seemed like they didn't want any part of it because the browns were a little more challenging to catch. They were bigger, they fought better. So it's almost like they preferred having the non-native species in there. So it's more than just an environmental issue. It's, it brings resources up from the city. People want to go trout fishing, they want to find a good stream to fish in.
Excellent. So let's pass it over to Emily. You're going to talk a little bit about California, some stuff, and then we'll have some questions at the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it too. I haven't heard yet.
I know. So basically, just like a short synopsis would be, so after high school, I went away to college and decided to major in marine biology. After doing a lot of water quality studies and environmental studies of freshwater, I decided I wanted to look at saltwater and how that was different, and saltwater covers a majority of our planet and just the impact that it has. During high school, we also did a lot of like chemical parameters and studying the chemistry of the water. So I also ended up majoring in chemistry as well and double majoring so that I could really study like marine chemistry and ocean chemistry, which led me to an internship last summer studying ocean acidification, where I participated in a 10-week-long research internship for undergrads, where I did research on ocean acidification and looked at the different buffer systems that impacted the ocean.
You're a busy girl.
So yeah, so that would be like a quick summary of it.
What are you doing? What do you do in your spare time?
Well, right now I'm actually working in one of the chemistry labs in school. I tutor about 20 to 25 students a week, and I'm also working with a sea turtle conservation program. So
must be nice to be young.
yeah.
So that's good, Emily. So a lot of the stuff that you did, in high school was, with the GLOBE protocols and everything, was a good catalyst to get it started. What you're doing now, so that's awesome stuff. Yeah, for sure. All right, I put in the chat. If anybody wants to share their email, go ahead and do that in the chat box. I see Jeff and Frank have already. This is for collaboration purposes. We won't sell it to third parties, so. They're all right there. All right. Vicki, can you share that publicly? You send it just to me. I know your email, Vicki, so yeah. So anybody have any other questions or any ideas they want to discuss with what they heard tonight?
Brad, did you want me to put my email in, or is it already?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Okay, so let's see.
I wanted to say this historian, hey, I am just so impressed. I was thinking that this really makes me, I was a teacher for 33 years and now I'm no longer in the classroom, and just listening to you talk and seeing the pictures and then seeing the information that was going back and forth in the chat, man, it really made me want to be, back in the classroom, or at least working regularly with students and be able to do some, really focused projects like this. This is really amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, listen, Dorian, I'm glad to hear that. And one of the things I can tell you, which I never realized, when you do something for 40 years and then you stop doing it, my first month of retirement, I was down in Florida rescuing my in-laws from Hurricane Irma and back and forth. And it was just between 8 million people leaving the state at one time and, dealing with all of that. And by the time I got home, I looked at my wife, I said, listen, I'm going back to work. Retirement is way overrated. And I actually did. I went back to school for 2 months and taught. And my body just felt so much better being back in the classroom than being retired. So it is a process to work your way out of a classroom, which is why I'm glad for this GLOBE program, because I can still keep my feet wet and try to enjoy retirement at the same time.
That's wonderful. Really, really wonderful. Well, again, thanks so much for making time and sharing this, and also to to Frank, to Emily, to everyone who's been, and Vicki and Marilyn, putting things in the chat, because looking at this information, I was putting in there when I saw Frank talk about leaf packs, and I was thinking, I don't think he means just regular old leaves that you find in the stream. I think, he means that you actually kind of artificially create something. And so sure enough, he gave me that information. And I'm going to start doing some stream quality studies with a group of outdoor environmental educators, and just being able to learn some of the ways that you guys are doing this, and some ideas like things like doing leaf packs. That is just huge. I love these collaborative, chances to get together.
Marilyn mentioned in the chat, she said, I would like to know how I can simplify this program for my fourth graders. It's a loaded question for sure.
Meryl, that's why I taught high school kids, is that the younger kids, they are better to work with. I'll say that. They actually scare me, though. I mean, by the time I get them, I can't damage them anymore. Whatever's happened to them is going to happen. But I respect
Wow.
I respect you guys at the lower levels. I was a high school kid at one time, and I know it's a different world. But yeah, I respect you guys. There are some simple tests that, I mean, like pH. As far as teaching acidity, you may get some vinegar and some other stuff just to start to give them a concept of what pH is. There's some like water experiments. What I do is take a balloon and I bring it close to the water, and the water bends, and that kind of just helps them understand a little bit about water has a little bit of a charge, which is why it makes such a great solution. Like I said, unfortunately, I'm not an elementary school teacher, and I don't know in fourth grade just how much they are, but the fact that you're here suggests to me that you are a very good teacher, and I know there's a lot of resources out there. So, I mean, kids tend to love bugs. The thing I try and do is get them interested first. They go out, maybe get a net and get some bugs out of the water, and then you can start maybe talking about, oxygen, H2O. I remember being at a lake meeting once, and we were trying to, when I moved into this new neighborhood, there was a lot of dead fish in the lake, and I knew that we needed some kind of way to oxygenate the lake. So we wanted to put an aeration in. And so it was going to cost, I don't know, like $40,000 for a compressor and some lines. And the guy stood up and said, you're ripping us off of $40,000. Water's got plenty of oxygen in it. The formula is H2O. And, understanding when he said that I knew I couldn't teach a chemistry lesson then, but if you can start to get fourth graders to maybe even understand, the H2O, the oxygen there isn't the same as the O2 that, fish need, or like the bubblers that you see in the fish tank. But like, this is collaboration. What Brian is suggesting, I bet you there are some fourth grade teachers that maybe do have water quality programs or water, things that they're doing. If not, you could be the leader. You could start taking the charge and, going out and start playing with some of the kits.
Hey, Bob, Frank mentioned, what about your conductivity light bulb demo for kids?
Yeah, one of the things, it's great to play head games with high school kids. I mean, if you don't keep these guys on their toes, they, just will turn you right off. So let's see, the couple of demos that may, if you're a teacher and you want to get the kids' attention about water, is if I ask kids, is water a good conductivity or a good conductor of electricity? They've all seen the movie where you put the hairdryer into the bathtub and it winds up killing the person inside. So they all say water's a good conductor. And then I get a light bulb. It's conductivity tester. It's a light bulb with two wires hanging out the bottom that aren't connected. So if you put those wires into water with any kind of ions in it, it will conduct. But if you have distilled or deionized water, when you put the conductivity tester in the water, it won't light up. So of course you start asking questions. Oh, I can't believe you guys lied to me. You said that it would light up. So I have two white crystals in front of me. So I said, oh, maybe if we put some stuff in it, that'll make it light up. So I take the first white crystal, put it in the water, stir it up, and then I put the light bulb. I said, okay, is it going to light up? Oh yeah. So I put it in, it still doesn't light up. So I said, maybe you need some magic words or something. So I take the second white crystal and I have some kid come up and say, you need magic words? And yeah, abracadabra. So, okay. So he does abracadabra over the crystals. We put them in, and then it lights up. Well, the first crystal is sugar, and the second crystal is salt. So just getting them to understand the difference between, two white crystals. Why does the one conduct electricity and the other one doesn't? I don't know how much they understand about positive and negative charges, but just a simple intro like that. The other one I can throw out quick to you is the first day of class. Kids come back and you don't have their attention. They're looking at everybody, who's wearing what. So in the front of the class, what I do is I have a beaker, and Mayapac's water has a reputation for not being so good. So I take the beaker, it's got a little A in the front, and I said, well, what do you think? Mayapac water's not so good, right? So, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm amazed. What's that? So I go to the sink, and I turn on the water, and my sink is there's a basin. So the kids, I put the beaker down as I'm filling it up, and then I bring it back up, and I shoot some of the water onto the desk, and I hit it with a match, and it starts to burn. So now I've got their attention because Mayapac water is burning. And then I said, yeah, besides it burning, I take a styrofoam cup and I put it into the beaker. As I'm talking, I say, what's the styrofoam cup used for? It's used to hold tea, coffee, water. And as I'm talking, the styrofoam cup is melting. So now I've really got their attention because, I said, oh, we can't stay in school. That's, who's going to go down and tell the principal it's time to get out of here because our water is dangerous. But they were all, of course, they're ready to run down and say that. But I said, no, it's science. I said, you got to do an experiment before you do that. So I have the kids, I give them styrofoam cups, I give them matches, and they go around to the fountains. They take the water, they put it on the desk, they try and light it. The match goes out, they try and melt the styrofoam cup. And what I do is I have a beaker of acetone in the same beaker that I take off the desk, but they don't see me make the switch. So if you really want to be entertained and you see like 24 kids trying to light water on fire, it's just a great way to start the year. But those are just some things that I thought of. Like you said, you guys can probably come up with some good stuff as well.
Vicky made a great comment in the chat. She said something else to do is to try to teach all of your science concepts through the phenomenon of water. Kids will start to think of water in a whole different light, plus keying in on runoff and infiltration of the water cycle begins and gets students thinking about water on the ground and under the ground. Very good ideas there.
Nice. Yeah, the one thing that I had trouble with, and I wish I had stayed in Mayapac a little bit longer, but we live in a place where water is very available and very good. And yet I'd have kids come in, and every day they'd leave the classroom and there would be 3 or 4 2 sips of water taken out of the plastic water container and left there. And the problem is it's so available that they don't understand how, I guess not precious, but whatever the word is. But yeah, it just kills me that all of these plastic containers are left with basically, full water in them. And somehow we got to get it across to them that, hey, listen, you don't get it. But I do a quick thing with the kids. I say, how much do you think I pay for a bottle of water? And of course, they throw, 25 cents, 10 cents. I said, we didn't have bottled water when I was a kid. I said, I got a faucet, I got a hose, and I got it there. And I said, right now I do the school price. I think it's like $1.25 or $1 for one of these water containers. We do the math. They're paying $10 a gallon for water in school. So I said, all right, I paid nothing for bottled water. You're paying $10 a gallon for bottled water. 20 years, what do you think the price of water is going to be? So it just makes me think a little bit about what's going on.
I miss drinking out of the hose. I used to do that every day as a kid during the summer. My mom used to say it would stunt my growth, but I'm 6'7", so maybe I was just to quit. I don't know.
When that you ought to bottle that water and sell it.
Yeah, that's good. That's Eastern Pennsylvania water where I grew up.
Oh, yeah.
As you can hear me say water, so you can tell I'm up from around that way. Water. So
yeah,
water.
Gary, how come Gary's not 6'7"?
Yeah, hey, Gary.
I drank water out of a hose too.
Yeah.
Something maybe for the 4th grade, I do with the middle schoolers. As far as macroinvertebrates, I cut tiny pictures out and put them in different envelopes, and then have the kids before going outside practice with the pictures determining and identifying them, and then determining if envelope number 1 is from a stream that's really good or it's okay, and those kinds of things. So they go through 5 or 6 or 7 of them, identifying the macroinvertebrate from the little pictures, and then determine, from whether they're tolerant or intolerant, what kind of water quality that so-called stream would be.
Nice.
Yeah, great idea. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions, comments that they want to bring forth? We are at 9:02. All right, while we're doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share my screen and introduce what our next SOTA webinar will be. You should be able to see that in the middle of the screen. Our next one is going to be live from the David Wooster Middle School in Stratford, Connecticut. And it's teacher Chris Newland, and he has 6 student presenters that will be here. And the topic is, does data drive questions or do questions drive data? A curious case of the chicken and the egg. So we're going to be super excited to see that. And that is on Thursday, April 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time or 9 p.m. UTC. And it's at the same URL that you came to tonight. You'll see lots of things out there. There's on the Globe news feed, www.globe.gov. It's up there. I'm not sure if it's up on the first page. It might be the second page by now, but it'll be back up again. You'll see some emails from me as well for that. But that is Tuesday, April 26th. And we also have our next, and Dorian, you have to let me know, I can't remember the time exactly, but our next, our collaboration webinar, our monthly science collaboration webinar will be,
sorry, it'll be on April 12th.
On April 12th.
You got it. And it is at, and Brian, I'm with you because of all the different time zone things that we're doing. I believe it is at 12 Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to check real quick to make sure because it is always, it's at 12 Eastern Standard, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is one of those things that we encourage you to tune into with your class. So it will be students from Croatia, Finland, Taiwan, and Ohio sharing just about 7-8 minutes, some information about their schools and how and why they learn about water in their environment. So just kind of a not as deep a dive as this was in sharing, what you're doing, but hearing it from the students and just kind of getting a feel for not only how they're learning about water, but also what life is like and what their school is like, to give us a sense of, I figured it was just nice to use this opportunity we have to work with people from around the globe. So what better way to get an understanding of our differences and our commonalities than by starting off with sharing some information about our school and then working from there to share what we're learning about water in our environment from these different locations around the world.
Yeah, it's just awesome to see, just the people that are on this webinar today, how many of you educators are collaborating with other educators, Globe educators from around the world already. So we're super excited, and we just hope that we know it's going to continue, but we're just trying to spread it out as best we can because there are lots of countries that want to get involved. And I think these webinars kind of eases and betters the comfort level that they can see somebody or hear from somebody from another country. And then that comfort level, gets a little better as far as, approaching and collaborating. So I know we've had some really good, collaboration so far. So super excited about this.
Yeah, the one thing, I guess the last thing I can add, Bri, is that, you look around the world and you just see a huge problem. And I can't fix the world, but I can fix the small part of the world that I'm in, or at least try and educate the next generation to try and do so as well. And so this is what gets you excited. Like I said, I don't know if it's smart, but I don't watch the news at all because I used to, and it just, it brought me down. So I said, I can't help that, but I can do this. And, you see, like you said, students like Emily, that you see where they're going, what they're doing, and, it just makes a big difference. So, that's how you keep hope.
Excellent. With that, I'm going to stop the recording and we'll stay on for a couple minutes after that if anybody has any last minute things, but I'm going to stop the recording right now.